Hello, my name is Jason Wilson, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to configure Vlan and VTP. So I'm going to start off with the Cisco packet tracer here. This is a nice little software where you can learn to program Cisco's iOS. They give you a variety of switches and routers that you are able to use. In this lab I just created 4 floors, and I've got some different departments to separate them with VLANs. So I've got a few in the call center, and I've just put them in VLAN 1, put all of the support staff in VLAN 10, and I've got a VLAN 20. I'll probably just use VLAN 1 and 10 to make the point and show the configurations, so it's not long and drawn out. And the IP address scheme that I'm using, of course, is Class C, and I'm using the 1, 2, and the 3 network. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so let's bring a 2960 switch up, and we're just going to do basic configurations. I'm not putting passwords or anything like that. This is just going to be VLAN and VTP. Don't want to confuse you. Alright, so let's go ahead and enable and go to configure terminal, and let's go ahead and look at some commands we can use to see our VLAN information. It's going to go show VLAN. Oh, excuse me, when you global configuration mode, you're going to use do. So do show VLAN. And you can see I've got only that one default VLAN, VLAN 1. And I have 24 fast Ethernet ports and 2 gigabit ports. So let's go ahead and make some connections down here. I've got some DHCP servers, which is going to allow my PCs to grab some IP addresses. So let's go ahead and connect some of these up. So I'm going to put this on 1. So my plan is, when I say put this on 1, what I want to do is I want to separate these ports from 1 through 5 being in VLAN 1, and then 6 through 10 being VLAN 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put this DHCP server on the VLAN 10 on port 6. So I'm going to go ahead and configure these VLANs. There's a few ways you can configure the VLANs. One of those ways can be from the global configuration mode, just by typing the VLAN ID, which will only allow you really to give it a name. But if you ever want to change the name later, you can do that just from the global command mode. Also, you can do it when you're in the interface mode. You can type interface VLAN ID and then the ID, and then that's where you can go into your IP address, and you can go in and put a description in there. And then see, a third way you can do it through the actual switch port access VLAN ID. So if you're configuring an interface to be in a port, in a VLAN, and that VLAN doesn't exist, it'll go ahead and create that for you. So I'm just going to do it the second way, where we can just create and then put the IP address and on VLAN 1, and then the description in there. Just remember, when you're dealing with layer 2 switches, you can only put an IP address on one of the VLANs for management purposes, pinging and things like that, because it is layer 2. Layer 3 you can put more on there, but just remember, layer 2 you're only allowed one IP address on one VLAN. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go into an interface mode here. Interface VLAN 1. Okay, now by default VLAN 1 is shut down, so you have to issue the no shutdown command. You can do that first. You can apply the IP address first, however you wish to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and now put the IP address. Oops. Okay, so now I'm just going to go 192.168.1.1 for this, and subnet mask 24. Okay, and then we'll put in, we'll go ahead and name this VLAN. Let's see. or actually a description. Put a description. This VLAN is default because you can't name a VLAN 1. Uh, I should mention that you can't rename VLAN 1. It'll be default. So description is default VLAN 1, and we'll just put call center. Okay. All right. So that should be it. Let's do a do show VLAN. Okay. Good. And you see all the ports are in there. So you don't really have to change anything because by default they're all in there. If you want to see the description, you can type in do show interface VLAN 1, I believe. You can do there you go. So you can see there that that's up, and you can see the description underneath that where it says default VLAN call center, and then you've got the IP address that I just put in. Okay. So VLAN 1 is set up that easy. Like I said, any computer right now that connects to this switch on any port is going to be a part of VLAN 1. But I already know that I have that I do want ports 1 through 5 to be in VLAN 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and add those computers to that. You can see that these computers are linking up to the switch pretty slow. It's about 60 seconds because of spanning tree protocol. And I can show you how to speed that up. Isn't part of the VLAN, but it's nice to know. I mean, it's something nice to know when you're doing your labs. So what you want to do is let's do an interface range fast Ethernet 0, 1 through 5. And we'll just do a spanning tree port fast, and that should makes connections a lot quicker. You can do it through all 20 ports if you want to. I'll probably do it a little later when I get to the VLAN 10 here. Okay, so that's my VLAN 1, and each one of these computers should now have an IP address because I have them assigned to, and I've got, that's pretty much my fault. I've got the both DHCP servers connected, so we'll just disconnect that and see how that works. I should now be getting the one network. There you go. Okay, so I don't have a default gateway because I'm just dealing with layer 2, so don't be alarmed. Okay, so that's a layer 1. We'll go ahead and test that between the computers there. You can see those work. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our configuration of VLAN 10. Okay, so let's start with configuration of VLAN 10. Let's go ahead and go into the switch. And let's go to interface. And just remember, you can go into interface while you're in another interface configuration mode, as you can see here. I'm just going to go interface range, and then I'm going to go fast Ethernet 0, 6 through 10. Okay, so now I'm configuring these range of ports. So let's go ahead and do switch port access. Actually, you can do switch port mode access to tell what type of port this is. Okay, there we go. Now we can go switch port access, and then we just type VLAN 10. Now you'll notice that we haven't created VLAN 10 yet, and this is the last VLAN, the way I showed you how you can create it. Well, VLAN 1 was there by default, but you can create it that way by typing in interface VLAN and then the VLAN ID. But this is another way. This is your third way. So I've got switch port access VLAN 10. So VLAN 10 is not in a database, but as soon as I enter this, it's going to create it because it wasn't there. So now all of those ports 6 through 10 are now part of VLAN 10. Alright, so let's go ahead and put a description in for, well, that's for the ports. Let's go ahead and go to interface VLAN 10. And now you can see that that's up. and let's do a description, and let's put VLAN 10 for the support staff. Okay, and if you look inside of your configuration while you're in VLAN 10, you can see the configurations that you can use there. We'll mainly be using description, IP, no, and the shutdown for this. Okay, so now we don't have to add an IP for this because, like I said, we just put it in the port ranges into VLAN 10, and this is a layer 2 switch. Alright, so let's go ahead, go back to configuration mode, well, global configuration mode, excuse me, and let's edit the name of VLAN 10. So let's give VLAN 10 the name of support VLAN. That's pretty simple. Well, can't have the space there. So support VLAN, and there you go. And let's go ahead from here and let's change the switch name as well. Host name SW1. Okay, that looks a lot better. And if we do a do show run, you can see where we made those configurations. Let's see here. You can see where the host name is switch 1. You see, you can see my IP address. This is for VLAN 1, call center. And VLAN 10, you see that we have a description of support staff. Okay, and if you do show VLAN, you can see where that VLAN name is support VLAN. And my ports that I've configured in that range are now in that range. Or excuse me, those ports are in that VLAN 10. Okay, so let's go ahead and start connecting some PCs. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start off with the server. This will be our DHCP server. And let's go ahead and connect 7, this PC here. And let's go ahead and put port fast on those, because I don't want to wait. Okay, interface. Oops, let's do range. Range. That's 0. What is that? 6, yeah. 6 through 10. Okay. Port fast. There we go. Okay. So now let's go ahead and connect the others. 8. Okay. So you can see now I'm not even waiting. Because what it does is port fast just puts your ports in the forwarding state. This is good for when you're connecting PCs only, like one PC is going to be connected to that port. You don't want to do it if you're connecting another switch, because you could cause switching loops. That's what spanning tree is for. If you are connecting a bunch of switches and there's a new protocol, well, it's not too new, but it's newer than spanning tree, is the rapid spanning tree. And it puts the conversion time is much faster. Okay, so now that we have that connected, we should now have IP addresses going to these computers. So they are. That's good. So now these should communicate with each other on the same VLAN, and they do. All right, excellent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to configure a trunk line from this switch to the new switch I'm going to set out that is going to allow us to have traffic go through the switch 1 into switch 2 and then reach our computers that are on the second floor there. Okay, so let's configure switch 2 with VLAN 1 and 10, and let's get these computers on the first floor to communicate with the computers on the second floor. So let's go ahead and grab a 2960 switch, and we'll go ahead and connect these. I'm just going to use port 24, and while that's doing the spanning tree, we'll go ahead and configure these as a trunk port. So I'm going to go ahead and go to switch 1, and let's see here, go to config T, and we'll go interface FA24. And we're going to do switch port mode, trunk. and that's it. So let's go to switch 2, and let's go ahead and change the host name to SW2, just like that. And now let's configure interface 24, and we'll do the same thing, switch port mode, trunk, and that now is a successful trunk, and it's converged. Okay, good. Now, that is a very long time to wait for these switches to converge, so I would definitely I would be putting that in rapid spanning tree, which would cut that time down. Um, so let's go ahead and now let's do some VLAN configuration. Okay, so let's go to interface VLAN 1, and let's do no shutdown command, and now we'll do IP address, and you know what, for this IP address we'll just do DHCP. It can get that IP from wherever. Okay, so now if we look at if we just do show VLAN, if you look, we don't have a VLAN 10 in here configured already. So this is where manual configuration comes into play. And you know, you can get some mistakes this way, because notice earlier I named the VLAN 10 to support staff VLAN. So with this configuration, what I would have to do is interface, just like on switch 1, interface VLAN 10, and I'm actually creating it and configuring it before I add the ports to it. So now with that, I'm going to go ahead and do interface, do a description. Description VLAN 10 for support staff. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and exit that, and we're going to go to our interface range, and we're going to do fast Ethernet 6 through 10, yeah. 6 through 10, and we're just going to do switch port, we'll do mode access. Okay, I mean, that's just telling it that you're just going to be part of one VLAN. You're not going to be a trunk. It's just going to access that one VLAN. So we're going to go to switch port, access VLAN 10. Okay, so now that protocol went up, you can see it went up. And if we want to change the name of VLAN 10 on this, we'll have to go in the global configuration mode, do a VLAN 10, and then we'll just do a name of support staff, and let's do something different. Let's try to make this different. Yeah, see, that's a different name than what switch 1 has. Okay, so now we configured that. Just want to make sure I configure. Yeah, I've already configured interface VLAN 1. So let's do show VLAN. Okay, so now we have 1 and 10. We have the ports the same as switch 1. So but I had to do all that manually. I had to configure all that manually. So let's go ahead and connect our computers, our hosts here. So we got 1. Let's go ahead and connect number 2. And yes, as you can see, these are not in port fast mode. So let's go ahead and do that as well. And I'll go ahead and just do interface range fast Ethernet 0, 1, say through 23. And we'll just do spanning tree port fast, just like that. Okay, so now we can go through here and just connect our other computers that we have. And you can see that convergence is very fast now. Now we're not having to wait on it. 7. Okay, 8. There we go. Excellent. So now let's go ahead and ping between VLANs between this trunk line here. Okay, so that works. And now let's go between switches. Okay, that's fine, because what it's doing is it's doing a broadcast. Now it should figure out where that is. Okay, but it didn't. So let's see what's going on here. Show VLAN active. Port 6 through 10. 24 should be gone. It is. It is getting an IP address. Oh, okay. Wrong IP address. There you go. Sometimes it's something as simple as that. Okay. And that was probably before we put it in VLAN 10. Usually I'd rewind it and cut that out, but you know, that's the whole thing, is troubleshooting these things. If you see something wrong, you've got to figure out, you know, okay, well, why isn't this traffic reaching each other? So now if we do it, you can see that's successful. So that's good, great. And we'll go ahead and test the VLAN 1, and that's good too. Okay, but now let's try to contact VLAN 1 up here. You'll see that'll always be a fail, because like I said before, you can't contact one VLAN from another VLAN without a layer 3 device, whether it being a router or a switch. So you will need a layer 3 device to do inter VLAN routing. Okay, so that's how you do the trunking, and that's how you do the VLAN manually. So you can imagine if you had to do that to 100 switches, that could be very tiresome, very just irritating. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and show you how to get rid of the VLAN configurations. Okay, so just something to remember. I don't want to take up a lot of time. Well, you know what? I'll go ahead and do it. So if from right now, if we just left our ports 6 through 10 in VLAN 10, and we try to say delete that VLAN, let's go ahead and do it. So no VLAN 10, right? So we'll go ahead and do that. So it's down. Let's do a do show VLAN. And you see that's gone, right? So even though it's gone, you'll see that ports 6 through 10 still, where are they at? Okay, they're still assigned a VLAN. So if those ports are involved in another VLAN, it can't truly be deleted, right? So, and I'll show you what I mean through this, even in this lab. So let's go ahead and we'll look at, we'll look at the directory. You can see that's my DAT file. That's the VLAN DAT file. You just type dir from your privileged command prompt. So dir, that will show you your VLAN.dat. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and delete that, and then I'm going to copy run and start. So I'm going to copy all my running configurations to my startup configurations. So let's go ahead and type delete, and you just type VLAN.dat, and you're just going to confirm. Okay, so now it's gone. So if we do dir for directory, all right, so now it's gone. So now let's do a copy run start. Okay, and yes. All right, good. Now I'm just going to reload the router, just like that. And you'll see, since I didn't take those ports out of VLAN 10, that it doesn't truly erase that VLAN. Okay, so now let's log back in. Let's do show VLAN. Just show VLAN. So you see where the 10 has come back to the router. So the best way to do that is you can just do the interface range again. So just do interface, config T, interface range fast Ethernet 0. Let's just do 6 through 10. Okay, and then we'll just, you can put it back into VLAN 1. So you could do switch port access VLAN 1, just like that. Do show VLAN. So now you can see all my ports are back into VLAN 1. So now we can do the no VLAN 10 command, and you can see where that went down. And we can even delete the database, but it's not necessary. I mean, you can just put no VLAN 10, and now it's gone. So if we do a do show VLAN, you see VLAN 10's gone. So let's do a copy run start. Oh, you must see copy run start, oops, do copy run, oh goodness, run start. Okay, and yes, and now we'll reload. Oh, if I could spell it. There we go, do reload, yes. Okay, so it's reloading the operating system now. It's coming back online, and okay, enable and show VLAN. So you can see 10 is still gone. So that's fine. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to configure VTP. Yeah, and VTP just means VLAN trunking protocol. So we're going to be passing VLAN traffic through the trunk, and it's going to automatically configure that for us from switch 1, the information on switch 1 to switch 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and configure VTP. So I've already configured the VTP, well not configured, but I've already put the show VTP status command here. So let's just do VTP status. And you'll see, actually, show VTP status. And I just want to look at a couple things. You have VTP version. Right now it's 1 through 3. I'm using 2 right now because it's a default with Packet Tracer. You can look at those features up, the difference in the features between the versions on the Cisco's website. Configuration revision. This is each time the VTP information is configured, this is marked up 1. So just remember that the highest number wins. So if you add another switch with a higher VTP revision number, it's going to win and it's going to send the updates through the network. And it could completely erase your VLAN information. Very easy to do. I've done it a couple of times. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some of the, and you can see here I've got Cisco configured, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to configure that. So it's pretty straightforward, just VTP domain, and then you just put the domain name, which we're just going to use Cisco. Sorry, set to Cisco, that's fine. And then let's go ahead and put a password on this. So we're going to do a VTP password of Cisco 1. Okay, and that's it. So we've just secured our VTP server with a password and a domain name. So let's look at our configuration. Do show VLAN, and we should be able to see our VLAN 10 there. Okay, good. So now let's connect this switch to that same VTP. So let's look at, go ahead, let's get out of this. Okay, VTP, show VTP status. Do show VTP status. Okay, so we can see here configuration revision is at 0. And we've got the server, it's already got the domain of a Cisco. I'm also going to change this to a client instead of a server. I don't want it to be changing anything on the network. I just want a server and a client. So we'll go ahead and configure this one as the client by VTP mode, and we'll type client. Okay, so now it's set in client mode. Let's go ahead and now put the VTP password so it will connect to the server and make no changes. So VTP password is Cisco 1. And so now it's join the Cisco domain. So let's go ahead and look to show VTP status. And we can see now that its configuration revision is 4. So that is pulling off of the server, or it's counting the configurations that I'm doing here. So let's go ahead and look at our VLAN database. Show show VLAN, and you can see now that the 10 has been pulled over. But here's the interesting thing about client in your client mode. So if you do a let's say we want to create a VLAN 20, right? So you can see that it's not going to let you create that in client mode, which is good. All you'd have to do is switch this back to server mode and do a configuration, and it'll go back to the other switch. So it's up to you, but mainly if you plan on having the IT on the first floor, and let's just say in this scenario, you don't want the other switches to be able to configure all the other switches. Or you can assign 2 switches to do the serving, and then the rest of the switches will be a client. That's kind of nice too, because if one of your switches fail, then you'll have one that'll take over, and where you can change the database. So let's go ahead and see that again to where we can add a VLAN. So let's just add VLAN 20, and let's name it. Let's see, what is that? Sales. Yeah, sales staff. Okay. Sales staff. No spaces. Sales staff. Okay. So now let's look at switch 2 and do the show VLAN command again. You see that my 20 already came over to switch 2. So that's how fast and easy, a nice and easy VTP is. So you just configure one switch, and it pushes out those updates to the other switches. So very nice, very easy. Of course, it doesn't push port configurations. So even though because I mean, it could be different scenarios for each one. You might not have, but just a few computers up here. So that would be annoying pulling the ports out. So it's just in this scenario, I do have the same amount of computers and the same configuration on each floor. So let's go ahead, and now we can just start adding our ports to VLAN. So we'll just go ahead and do our interface range, fast Ethernet 0. Let's do 6 through 10 again. We don't even need that many. We don't even have a DHCP server on this. We're pulling all that from the DHCP server that is located off the switch 1. So now we're just going to do switch port access VLAN 10, and that's it. Do show VLAN. Okay, so now you'll see all those ports are configured to be in VLAN 10. Again, VTP, very nice, very easy to use. Makes things a lot easier when you have multiple switches throughout the network. Okay, now that the VLANs are configured, let's go ahead and test our network. So you'll see that now we can ping each of the computers on their same VLAN. Same with VLAN 1. And just remember, with layer 2, you can't ping between VLANs. You have to have a layer 3 device to do that. Okay, so let's talk about transparent mode. We've already talked about the server and the client mode, to where the server is sending the information through one switch to another, changing the actual information. The client mode pretty much reads it, updates its database, but is not allowed to make changes to its database or send out sends up updates to other switches. So the transparent mode, this is pretty much saying, I'm not even, the switch is saying that I'm not even going to participate in the VTP. There's no actual disabling VTP, so transparent mode is pretty much the equivalency of disabling it. You can still work with deep VLANs and things like that. It's just it'll never update its VLAN table from the other switches. So just as an example, we'll go ahead and connect to switch 1, 20. Well, I've got to connect it first, don't I? I have to pull switch out. So let's pull switch out. And you know what? Let's go ahead and pull a device out. Let's pull out a server. Let's say that server's top secret. And then just a laptop that we're going to use. Okay, so server's top secret. We only want a few things in this network. That's why we don't want to participate in VTP. Whatever the reason is. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect our devices. So we'll go 23 on this, and we'll match them up. We'll make this 23 as well. Then we'll go ahead and connect our switches. Let's see here. We'll put the first one with the server, and you know what? We'll do port 2 We'll make that, we'll configure that here in a second. Okay, so this is our server, obviously, with the switch. We're going to call this one enable. We're going to call this one hostname switch 3. Okay, good. Alright, so now we're just going to do a VTP mode transparent, because I don't want any information from the other switches to update any of my tables. Alright, so we're going to change that to transparent, and then we're going to go ahead and join the Cisco domain. So I mean the VTP domain will be Cisco, and okay, so that's fine. It's got the domain information, but let's go ahead and get the password. VTP password of Cisco 1. Cisco 1. Okay. So now if we do show VTP status, you see it is in transparent mode. It's set to 0. Like I said, it's not even going to participate. And we'll go ahead and look at the VLANs, and you'll see do show VLAN. Okay, so no VLAN information has been passed. That's great. So what if we do want to communicate with VLAN 10? Well, that's fine. So, you know, I don't want other VLANs having any on my switch, just, you know, for security reasons. Let's say that 20 is open to the public and I don't want 20 over, or, you know, a couple of VLANs are like that. Okay, so let's also go ahead and configure this trunk. So that was on interface fast Ethernet 23, and we'll do switch port mode trunk. Put that in trunk mode so we can do multiple VLANs. We'll do the same here. Face fast Ethernet 23, switch port mode trunk. Alright, so now that trunk between switch 1 and switch 3 is now configured. So let's go ahead and we can just manually configure it. So we'll just go interface FA, I think this is 2, and we'll go switch port access VLAN, that is 10. Yeah, we'll do 10. Okay, so it doesn't exist, so it's creating it. That's correct. Even though it exists on the other switches on the network, it didn't obtain the update from the other switches. So we're manually configuring just this one switch. So I'm going to go to the desktop of this computer, and I'm going to see as soon as that converges right there, because I know that's a spanning tree. Okay, so as soon as that converges, finally, alright, good. As soon as I click this DHCP, it should, and it does. So from VLAN 10, that's my 2 network, and it grabbed an IP address from the DHCP server. So that worked good. Okay, so now this can still participate with the network. It's just I don't want it participating with the VTP. So that's how you disable that. Or that's how you put that in transport mode, transparent mode. Well, that's the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed. Just leave comments down at the comment section below there. And I hope to have a Cisco Wizard version of this, so you can kind of follow along through the lab with the how-tos right there in the Wizard. But that's all for now, and thanks.